For the final time in 2019, what's going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome to the Fantasy Headliners. Kyle coming to you with our quarterback and tight end rankings video for Week 17 of the NFL season. And it's crazy to think that this is the final show for me in 2019. It's been a crazy year. We've done so much content. We've seen so much growth. And the most important thing is we've seen so many people that are a part of Headliner Nation win fantasy football championships. So hopefully you are wrapping up a fantasy football championship this weekend, and hopefully you are maybe putting a little money in your pocket, maybe a trophy on your shelf, but most importantly, you have some bragging rights for the next year. So ladies and gentlemen, again, thanks so much for all of your support this season. Appreciate you tuning in every single week, watching the videos, liking the videos, coming to the live shows, whatever it may be. Thanks so much. Do not go anywhere, though, because 2020 is going to be even bigger. We have tons of off-season content coming. We're going to be all over the place. We've got some trips planned. We hope to meet up with parts of Headliner Nation throughout the country. It's going to be an exciting time. So don't go anywhere. But that's enough of that. We got to move on. Let's talk about Week 17 rankings. And you might see that a few names are missing from these rankings, but let's talk through them a little bit and try to understand maybe what we are facing this week. And we're going to take a look here at quarterbacks first. My top 20 quarterbacks for Week 17. Josh Allen is not on here right now, and Deshaun Watson is not on here right now. And the reason for that being is because when I'm recording these shows, I don't know what's happening with those two guys as of yet. Josh Allen, I expect to probably play a little bit and then be out of the game. Maybe the same thing for Deshaun Watson, but quite honestly, they should just leave him out. No sense going in getting your starting quarterback hurt. Yes, it's football. Anybody could get hurt on the field at any point in time, but if you were to lose your starting quarterback a week before the playoffs start, that's a huge hit. So I don't know where I'm going to end up putting those guys yet. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to try to post something on Twitter when I know more information, try to tweet something out. I'm headed out of town, though, for the weekend, so I'm not going to be in town. I'm going to be out and about, spending time with family. So I'll try to get the information out there to the masses, whether it's on the community tab, whether it's on Twitter. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at krich1532. Follow Jake at FNTSY Headliners. And then we'll try to get that information out. But let's talk about the guys that we know. So Patrick Mahomes coming in at number 1 for me, going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. KC still battling for potential bye, that number 2 seed. It depends, though. Obviously, New England would have to lose as well. So KC at home against the Chargers. Mahomes is a full goal for me. 100% in on Drew Brees this week as well. Really like Drew Brees. I know he didn't have nearly the type of game last week that some people thought. And I don't understand why. He had a really good game. I loved his performance last week. Some people seem to be a little bit disappointed in it, but I think he might have been overshadowed by a couple of others. So not sure why, but up against Carolina, going with him as well. Jameis Winston, big letdown last week. Obviously crushed a lot of us. But again, the volume is always going to be there. I say it time and time again. The guy could have 400 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. He could have 300 passing yards and 4 interceptions. It's kind of a crapshoot every single week with him. So, but again, tons of volume this week. A good matchup for him as well. I've got Matt Ryan at number 5. I believe it's going to be a back and forth game. The reason I've got Dak Prescott just a smidge above Matt Ryan is because that defense for Tampa Bay every once in a while shows up for some reason or another. They either get absolutely slaughtered or they show up and they play decent. Matt Ryan, it's on the road. Dak Prescott is at home. Washington isn't. I don't think Washington's going to present that much of a challenge this week for Dak Prescott. Yeah, a little bit of a shoulder injury, but I'm going to roll with Dak just a little bit higher this week because of the difference home and away. The teams that they're playing, Matt Ryan, though, still a great option to go with, especially, again, because of volume. Him and Winston, the same thing, volume, back and forth, lots of points scored. Definitely could see that being a thing this weekend in Tampa Bay. Aaron Rodgers at number 6. I got him a little bit lower just because outside of 3 games this year, Aaron Rodgers really hasn't been that good. So, yes, he's still a quarterback 1, but he just hasn't done anything this year outside of those 3 huge games. Yes, it's Detroit. Yes, it's on the road. Yes, I will start him. No, I'm not going to put him in the top 5. So, Ryan Tannehill at number 7. Dude has one of the best passer ratings in the entire AFC this year, which is absolutely insane to think about, considering that he wasn't even considered really a threat by a lot of people to Marcus Mariota at the beginning of the season. I've always liked Ryan Tannehill. I've always liked him. I don't know if I've ever had this conversation on camera or talked about him on these shows, but I know in some articles I wrote last year, Ryan Tannehill, I defended him. I just always thought that he didn't get enough. He didn't get enough praise for the work he did when he was healthy. But it was some injuries. It was obviously playing for the Miami Dolphins that caused a little bit of an issue. I think he's a good, solid quarterback. I think he can be really good, and I think that they have found a guy there in Tennessee that can help for many years. Got him at number 7. Carson Wentz at number 8. Going up against the New York Giants, Daniel Jones at number 12. Again, a game that could really be back and forth there. The one thing that worries me about Carson Wentz, he'd be a little bit higher. He'd actually probably be over Tannehill and Rodgers for me this week if it wasn't for the lack of weapons and not knowing about Zach Ertz. I'm concerned about Ertz. Rib injury. Is he going to be on the field this week? We don't know yet. He hasn't practiced yet. I think that they might throw him out there as a decoy. But at that point, too, it's still just another weapon that Carson Wentz is missing now. Excuse me, had to get a quick drink there. Apologize. Russell Wilson coming in at number 9. A huge matchup for him in Seattle going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Got him coming in at number 9. Jared Goff at number 10. Great matchup against Arizona. One thing that worries me about Jared Goff is just volume. I would probably have him even a little bit higher if it wouldn't be for the fact that I think we're going to see quite a bit of run game this week from the Los Angeles Rams. Jared Goff will still do more than enough to be a top 12 quarterback. Top 10. I've got him at 10 now. But again, too, volume. Is he going to get all that volume that we'd like to see? Tom Brady at number 11, again, kind of the same thing. Is he going to get a lot of volume? I think that New England is going to look to go out there and really put it to Miami in the season on a really solid, outstanding win, get ready for the playoffs. Tom Brady's going to get himself ready to roll. I think they go out there and do that, but I think we see a lot from the running game this week. Rex Burkhead last week, we saw quite a bit of him, maybe a lot of him and Sony Michel and James White this week. So again, volume. Daniel Jones at number 12. Turnovers are an issue for me. Had a really great game last week, but still has thrown quite a few turnovers. So I'm still being careful with him there. Baker Mayfield, Andy Dalton playing each other 13 and 14. Really think, again, a lot of back and forth there. Not two defenses that I'm really worried about. Maybe some turnovers here or there, but I think Andy Dalton and Baker Mayfield, even if they were to throw a couple of picks each, let's say, still, game will be close enough. There'll be enough back and forth that there's going to be more than enough volume there for those two. Ryan Fitzpatrick on the road in New England. I'm still going to roll with him this week. I've got him listed as a start. He's my final start listed here. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick just because, again, the volume. He has a good amount of upside every single week. The dude could easily throw. He could easily go maybe 280, 290 this week, 3 touchdowns, a couple of interceptions. If that happens, he's still a start. He's going to hit 18 fantasy points. So I'm okay with it. Got him listed at 15, though, because, again, ceiling. I don't think he's throwing for nearly 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's not going anywhere near like what he did last week. But still, I think against New England, I definitely think that if New England gets out in front, that Ryan Fitzpatrick could still do enough to be listed as a start. Got him at 15. Jimmy Garoppolo at 16. I think he does just enough against Seattle, just enough to help them potentially win a football game, but not enough to really be a fantasy start for me this week. Drew Locke, kind of the same thing. I mean, he had a great matchup last week against Detroit. Could not have been set up any better at home against a really bad defense, and they just didn't really do anything. He wasn't bad, but he didn't throw for 200 yards. He only threw for 1 touchdown, didn't throw any interceptions. Maybe the same thing this week against Oakland. I mean, Drew Locke's been hard to get a read on. He's had one really, really good game. He's had a couple of okay games, and then he's had a game. So kind of the same thing. I don't have him listed as a start just because I don't love the match. It's not that I don't love the matchup. I don't know what we're going to get from them this week. A lot of Phillip Lindsay. Royce Freeman scored a touchdown last week. That's probably something that took away from him a little bit. Does that happen this week again against Oakland? Limited ceiling for Drew Locke. Gardner Minshew, since he's come back, he really hasn't been much of anything at this point. I mean, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't played bad at all, but he hasn't really had a ceiling. And less than 200 yards in a couple of games. Only throwing maybe one touchdown per game is kind of what we're shooting for with Gardner Minshew. Again, if you're playing in a fantasy championship this week, Gardner Minshew is not going to be the guy to seal it up for you. Sam Darnold at 19. I'd like to put him higher. If I were to find out Buffalo is going to rest a lot of its starters. If that happens, if Buffalo were to rest a lot of its starters, especially on defense, then at that point, Sam Darnold becomes into a guy that I might end up playing this week. So another situation that I'm monitoring right now. Not a lot of upside. Don't love his matchup. Buffalo's super tough. On the road as well in Buffalo. Not going to roll with him this week unless I find out more information. And then Jacoby Brissett coming in at number 20 since his injury just hasn't had nearly the ceiling that he did at the beginning of the year. So those are our quarterbacks for week 17. Again, I do not have Deshaun Watson in there, and I do not have Josh Allen in there as of right now. As I know more information, I will let you know, okay? So if you're watching this video, just know that. Don't look at it and then tweet me or comment below and say, how could you not have Deshaun? I don't have them in there as of right now. They will go in there at some point this week, and when that happens, I will let you know, okay? So stay tuned for those two guys. Now, let's talk about our top 20 tight ends for the week. Tyler Higbee coming in at number 1. He gets Arizona this week. A lot of people were worried last week that he was not going to get the volume because Gerald Everett was back. Gerald Everett was not a factor last week whatsoever. Tyler Higbee had another good game. Expect as much this week going up against Arizona. Life, death, taxes, tight ends against Arizona. Okay? All things that happen. Okay? Tyler Higbee is going to have another good game this week. George Kittle coming in at number 2 against Seattle. Seattle also another team that has difficulties dealing with tight ends. And you get a guy like George. Apparently, I decided to put Georger Kittle. I don't know who that is. Georger. I don't know who Georger is. Georger Kittle. Okay. That's Georger Kittle is George Kittle's great uncle. Okay. It's not. But anyway, a little bit of a typo there. My apologies for that. But George Kittle, great matchup this week. Going to be the main target for Jimmy Garoppolo. Definitely going to see a majority of that volume more than likely. Travis Kelce, the man. If you own Travis Kelce, you're putting him in your lineup. Of course, every single week. Austin Hooper, good game last week. Could have another good game this week against Tampa Bay. Continues to be one of the main targets for Matt Ryan. No Calvin Ridley. Austin Hooper could see a little bit better of a matchup here. Darren Waller disappeared last week. 2 weeks ago, had a great game. Darren Waller just, he's been frustrating at times this year. But because of where you got him in your draft, he's been awesome, okay? It doesn't matter what happens week in and week out because he's hit more weeks than he hasn't. And more than likely, you either used like a last-round pick on him or you got him off waivers after week 1 or week 2, okay? Again, if you've been a part of Headliner Nation since the draft guide, which came out over the summer, we had Darren Waller listed as a sleeper and said, if you missed on your tight end, wait and pick up Darren Waller. It's going to be a good season for him. It was. Great season by Waller. Again, though, here towards the end of the season, it's been a little frustrating with him. But again, we're going to put him up there at number 5. Just way too much volume, way too much of an opportunity this week. Jared Cook at number 6. I made the mistake when the New Orleans Saints played the San Francisco 49ers. Listed Jared Cook as a sit. Had him as a tight end 2 that week. Didn't love the matchup. He sure showed me. Okay, 2 touchdowns that week. He's got 2 touchdowns in 2 of his last 3 games. So we're going to roll with Jared Cook again this week, number 6. Not going to make that same mistake again. Another name that you don't see here, Mark Andrews. Another name, Zach Ertz. Both of these guys, I don't know what's happening with these guys. Mark Andrews should sit. He was not included in the names of people that were going to sit this week for Baltimore. Maybe that will change by the time this comes out, but as of right now, as of this recording, it has not been guaranteed what's going to happen with Mark Andrews. He should not play this week. Do not play Mark Andrews this week, okay? Leave him on the bench. let Hayden Hurst go out there and play, okay? He's at number 16 for me. If he ends up playing, Mark Andrews is out, Hayden Hurst probably gets a little bit of a bump for me even. Will probably be the main target for RG3 in this game. So I'm going to go with Hayden Hurst at 16 for right now. No Mark Andrews because I don't know where he's going to be. But again, if he ends up playing, if we know that for sure, he will jump into these rankings somewhere, probably on the lower end because I don't think he'll play that long. Now with Zach Ertz, again, I don't know what he's going to do. He hasn't practiced yet, has a rib injury. Right now with Dallas Goedert, I've got him in at number 7 because even if Zach Ertz plays, I don't think he's going to see a ton of volume. I think he's going to be more of a decoy. I don't think that he's going to run some routes, but he's not going to be 100%. Okay, so Dallas Goedert at number 7. No Zach Ertz here right now. If Zach Ertz does end up playing, I'll toss him in somewhere because maybe he gets a couple of looks. But if Philly could have to be cautious with him because if he gets hurt or he can't make it through the game and then ends up missing the playoffs if they get in, that's just not good because they're already dealing with way too many injuries. If you lose Zach Ertz, you lose the main cog in that offense. Hunter Henry at number 8 just hasn't been great here at the last few weeks of the season. Had an injury earlier in the year, came back, has played well in a lot of his games. We've lost a lot of volume with him, though. Mike Williams has seen an uptick in volumes, and I think maybe that's why that's taken away from Hunter Henry some, but still going to roll with him. At number 9, Jonnu Smith, a must-win game for the Titans. They're going to be going all out against Houston. Smith continues to be a really good athletic weapon for Ryan Tannehill. I really like Jonnu Smith kind of as that number 2 right now on that team. Scored a touchdown last week. You got A.J. Brown as the number 1 target. Jonnu Smith, I think he makes a really, really good number 2 there. Jason Witten at number 10. Love the matchup. I said it in my start and sit video. With tight ends, if you get a touchdown, you're almost guaranteed a tight end 1 week. That's the key. That's the key to success. If you missed out on the top guys, Kittle and Kelsey, if you missed out on Ertz to begin the draft, if you missed out on those guys, then it's really been about trying to maybe piece together some tight ends throughout the season. But if you get one that hits a touchdown, you've had a successful week at the tight end position. Jason Witten has a lot of touchdown upside this week against Washington. I like that matchup for him. Washington hasn't been good against tight ends. I'm taking him to score a touchdown this week. Greg Olsen at number 11. Don't love him this week, but I think because he is the main weapon there. DJ Moore is technically the main weapon, but he's really that veteran leadership. He's the guy that has produced. With DJ Moore, he's going to be the big play guy. I mean, obviously, he's going to be the guy that can go over 100 yards at any point in time. A tight end 1, depending on your scoring this year. Wide receiver 1, depending on your scoring this year. DJ Moore. So DJ Moore is the number 1 target, but Greg Olsen's really that safety valve. He gets a lot of first looks and then he gets a lot of second looks. You have your first look, whether it be the wide receiver, where maybe it's a running back. But then your next look is going to be Greg Olsen almost every single time. So he gets a lot of looks that way. Mike Gesicki, I've said it for weeks now. He does the opposit of whatever I say. So I listed him as a start this week. Obviously, he's going to have an awful week. That's the way it's just been every single week. Every single week the guy does it to me. But I have him at number 12. He's become a really good weapon for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Really, New England does a really good job of limiting wide receivers. So Gesicki, for them to really produce, Gesicki's probably going to have to produce a decent game as well. Noah Fant at number 13. I like him. Don't love the matchup for him. Well, I mean, I do like the matchup for him, but the limited Drew Locke, that concerns me. That is what concerns me about Fant. Maybe not a whole lot of upside this week. Kyle Rudolph. I'm going to roll with him this week. Again, kind of for the same reasons as Jason Witten. I think he can score a touchdown this week. And Tyler Eifert, the same thing at number 15. Eifert's looked a lot better since Andy Dalton came back into the lineup. So that's why I'm okay having Tyler Eifert a little bit higher. Now, here's the thing, though. Okay? Here's the thing. I am not running out there to start Tyler Eifert no matter what. Okay? That's not what this is about. Okay? So don't take anything... Don't take anything like that, okay? I'm not saying start Tyler Eifert over your stud. I'm not saying anything like that, okay? But if you've had a tough time at the tight end position this year, and you have somehow found your way into the fantasy championship here in week 17, and you need to play somebody, Tyler Eifert might be sitting on your waiver wire. Since Andy Dalton has come back, he's seen 17 targets, 11 receptions. The yards really haven't been there that much. 150 yards, 1 touchdown. Okay, not great numbers there, but he's seen volume. Maybe this week, if you're planning on putting in a GPP lineup, maybe on your DFS site, your favorite DFS site, Tyler Eifert, okay? In GPP, we look for those guys that are not going to be highly owned. He could be a guy this week at the tight end position that gets you a touchdown. Okay, that's all I'm saying about him. Hayden Hurst, again, he could potentially be going higher depending on what happens with Mark Andrews. Jacob Hollister, tough matchup. Really hasn't been that great against Arizona last week. He was their number 1 receiving weapon, but it wasn't even that great of a performance. O.J. Howard at number 18, Jack Doyle at 19, Caden Smith at 20. Don't really love any of these guys. They're just kind of making it. When you get to this part of the rankings for tight ends, it's really just about who may or may not hit. Okay, and that's what we've got with O.J. Howard. Could end up hitting. Jack Doyle, probably not going to hit, but he's definitely, if he gets you 3 receptions, he's a top 20 tight end, to be honest with you. Same thing with Caden Smith. Just don't really love his matchup this week. So there you have it. Our top 20 tight ends for week 17, our final quarterback and tight end rankings for the 2019 season. It's been an excellent year for the fantasy headliners, and that's because of all of you out there watching the videos every single week. Appreciate you sticking with us through week 17. But if you're new to the channel, if you're popping in here for the first time because you need help here in week 17 and there's not a whole lot of fantasy sites out there giving you information, we've got you covered. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave us some comments below, all that good stuff. For the final time in 2019, ladies and gentlemen of Headliner Nation, thank you again so much for everything that you've done to support us this season. We're coming back bigger and better than ever in 2020. We've got off-season content coming. We're going to have postseason content. Okay, we're not going anywhere in the postseason. We're going to be here during the postseason. We're going to be here for the combine. We're going to be here for the draft. We're going to be here for free agency. We might do a little baseball this off-season, all right? Stick around because you're not going to want to miss any of that. Thanks so much again. Have a great New Year's, everybody in Headliner Nation. Thank you for all of your support. And for the final time in 2019, have a good one.